Hi, it's Aaron Turner here from One Thought with my State of Mind mailbag. I don't know if you've seen this before, but in the State of Mind mailbag, we take questions from people with issues and challenges within their organizations. And we like to show the relevance that State of Mind can have for understanding these issues better and for dealing with them more easily, kind of untangling them. Because from my perspective, we're all overlooking state of mind. It's the thing that influences us first, but it's the thing we think of last if we ever think of it. So if you're interested in that perspective on a problem that you're struggling with, let us know your questions, email into mail@sparknetwork.com. And hopefully we can get you on the mailbag. But today we have a question from Avoidant and Annoyed, and it's a common question that I come across in a lot of technical organizations, so engineering firms, technology firms. So I will read it out to you and then talk you through the answer. So, dear Aaron, I manage a hard-working product team for a startup. One of the most senior team members has been a generally low performer since starting a year and a half ago and is already asking for a considerable pay rise. I feel terrible, but I don't think he's deserving of a raise. To make matters more awkward, he was a star hire and poached from a big competitor, but has been utterly mediocre since starting. I don't want to upset him. He's a beloved member of the company otherwise, but I also am baffled and kind of irked by this request. Am I being a wimp? How do I handle this? Thanks, Avoidant and Annoyed. Now you might resonate with this because it's a really common issue. There's lots of different parts of it, but the core of it is very common. And the key point that I want to illustrate in answering this is that there's one single variable that makes everything easier or everything harder, and that's a person's clarity of mind. And you can see in this question that there are lots of ways in which the state of mind of Avoidant and Annoyed, sorry to talk about you in the third person, is disturbed because there's feeling terrible that the person's asked for a raise but they don't deserve it, feeling badly that they haven't performed, and kind of being baffled and bothered and irked. And it's interesting that in the question you say, am I being a wimp? Because it sounds like you feel like, well, there's something we need to talk about, but we're not. So when I work in organizations that don't see state of mind, it's very common that one of the challenging areas they have is difficult conversations. And in their mind, difficult conversations are usually confrontational conversations that might involve reactivity, upset, and potentially conflict. So one large organization I'm thinking about had a huge problem with performance management because the executives would not have what they thought of as the difficult conversations. So they would not talk to people about their performance. Now, they'd had hundreds of trainings about this where they were taught to be aggressive and clear and introduce good information first and then get onto the criticism, but they still weren't having the conversations that needed to be having about performance. Now, when we did state of mind training with them, one of the key things they learned is your upset thinking is causing your discomfort. So in a difficult conversation, your insecurity and worry about other people's upset is making you insecure. So you're not in a clear state of mind. Now, two things happened when they discovered that. One is, instead of feeling uncomfortable with the prospect of a confrontational conversation, they saw it as their own insecure thought, and they realized, oh, I can get over that and get comfortable. Like on the other side of your uncomfortable thought is you in a comfortable mind. Right? So if you can take that in stride rather than run away from it or hold it against yourself and run away from it, you'll find a clearer mind. So they knew that. So all of a sudden, their resistance to have difficult conversations went away because they kind of just got over it. And when they actually sat with people to have these conversations, what they realized is they weren't as bad as they used to be. And the reason is because if you're trepidatious and insecure, you're not in a clear mind, you feel uncomfortable, you don't approach things in a very clear-minded, leveraged way, and your sensitivity can rub other people up the other way and rub on their sensitivity. So you'd have these conversations that blew out of control. Once people learn to get comfortable with their own discomfort, that stopped happening, right? Everything became neutral. And that's one of the things I see in your question, avoidant and annoyed, is if you can get comfortable not dwelling in your upset and your reactivity, there's some very neutral things that need to be discussed here. One of them is their performance is mediocre. So that needs to be discussed. Like, we don't know, do they care? We don't even know, do they even know? They might think that they're knocking it out the park. So we know that their performance is mediocre. And if we care about that, we got to talk to them about it. And if we need to talk to them about it, we kind of have to get comfortable. And to get comfortable, we have to get over our insecurity about their upset. Because let's put it out there. If I'm upset by my own thinking, then they're upset by their own thinking. And what do we know about thinking? If you don't latch into it and get preoccupied by it, it's temporary, so no big. Now, if I'm upset and you're upset, we tend to react to each other. But if I'm not upset and I take my upset in stride, it's going to be easier for you to get over yours. So you're setting a different tone. If you can stick to a clear mind and not get overstimulated by your reactive thinking, you can get really confident that you can set a better tone. And if you get confident about that, these things that look like they're going unsaid in this situation, look, your performance is mediocre, but you want to rise. So firstly, we need to get on the same page about what your performance needs to be, and we need to see how to get there. Secondly, you might want to talk about, well, what does a raise? Do you get a raise without improving your performance? I mean, all this needs to be discussed so that you can find your clarity about what matters, and you can help them understand their clarity about matters. Now, I don't think that them being a star hire and poached from a bigger competitor makes things more awkward if you're clear and neutral about performance and pay. Your neutrality about performance and pay takes the awkwardness out of it. Your awkwardness about it puts the awkwardness into it, right? So if you don't like the awkwardness of it, then you kind of have to settle down and get more neutral about the whole thing. So the last thing I wanted to say is, and people always say this when they have the conversations they don't want to have, is I don't want to upset him. My suggestion is be willing for him to be upset. Firstly, you're not going to upset him. He's going to be upset by his own reactions, and that's going to happen one way or another anyway. So that's really worth getting over. Secondly, if we're trepidatious about upsetting someone, we immediately put ourselves into an unclear, reactive, sensitive state of mind, and we walk on eggshells. If you're walking on eggshells and you're going to have a conversation with someone, it's probably not going to go too well unless they have a very resilient mind. So my advice, and this is the key part, is if you find yourself sensitive about something, or it's complicated or it's awkward, check your own state of mind. And you're probably going to find you're not at ease, because if you were at ease, the whole thing would look simple. You'd be like, oh, I have a team member that wants a raise. It's a little bit funny because their performance is really bad. I understand that because they were a star poach and we really wanted them, but I think they need to understand what we expect performance-wise before we discuss raises, and it's important for them to understand about that. I don't want to upset him, but it's not really in my control. I'm sure if he gets upset, we'll have a chance for him to calm down. I really appreciate him, because he's an appreciated member of the team. So I'm going to work it out with them. Right? Then all of a sudden, the self-doubt, the concern about the conversation, the awkwardness is all gone. Now, it's really important to reset to a clear mind and not to have the awkwardness, not to have the trepidation, not to have the resentment about performance and pay. Because if you hold on to those thoughts, they will fuel discomfort and resentment in your mind, and they will alienate you more solidly and severely over time with this team member. And the only way to come back from that is to clear your own mind and reset and restart. So you might as well do that now. So I'm glad you asked the question. Put your own state of mind first. Calm down so that you feel neutral and the issues look simple and the emotions look like distortions and reactions within your own mind, which is what they are. And I'm sure everything will be great. But let us know, because we want to know if this worked out. And again, if you have questions and you want to see what a state of mind perspective might be on your business challenge, then write in at mail@spartnetwork.com. See you next time.